Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. Today I'm sharing the cards I made using Spellbinders November 2021 card kit. This is Joyful Christmas. Now generally this is part of their monthly subscription, but due to some product delays, this kit is being offered individually, so it's not part of the monthly subscription. I will have links provided in the description box if you want to purchase this kit. So let's go ahead and get started with card design number 1. I'm using a card sketch for inspiration. This is from Sketch Saturday. It's number 681. I have some gray and white striped paper for the background, adding this pine cone and pine branch pattern paper in this larger rectangle piece. Layered that on some dark green cardstock. Using that same dark green cardstock, I have 2 strips. I'll cut a fishtail on the end of each of them. And these are about 3/4 of an inch wide. On the sketch I have it listed at 1/2 inch, but I decided to have them just a little bit wider. For the sentiment, I've already stamped this out. This is "We wish you a Merry Christmas." And just for a little extra sparkle, I'm adding some Love from Lizi peel-offs as a little frame around that sentiment. This is the silver pinstripe style. Now I'll have each of those peel-offs go off of the edge, but I'll be cleaning that up here in just a moment. I'm using the narrowest width. I'm not putting it on the very edge of that sentiment box, leaving probably about a 1/16 of an inch around the outside. So once those are all in place, I'll use my craft knife and miter the corners together. So I'm just pressing the very tip of the knife into the corner and then removing those extra little bits of the peel-offs. So now I've created this fun little frame. I'll adhere the sentiment down using some liquid adhesive. Then I'll have the green cardstock banner pieces go around that frame. So they basically point to the sentiment. So I'll make sure to get those lined up nice and straight. And it's easy with the stripes in the background. Now I will add some scrap cardstock pieces just to make sure to get everything at the same level. I had a little too much on this right piece, so I did have to trim it down. And I'll glue that in place using some liquid adhesive. And then I'll do the same thing to the piece on the left. I think that's the perfect place to add the sentiment, and this is a sentiment that's included on the stamp set in the kit. So again, I'll add that scrap cardstock first. And this piece is a little too wide, so I will need to trim off about 1/4 of an inch. But first I'll get it placed correctly, then I'll flip over this panel and then just trim off that extra. I'll layer this piece on some black cardstock and then again on some dark green cardstock. Now the kit does include several sheets of colored cardstock, but I will be bringing in additional cardstock since I love to add a lot of cardstock layers to my cards. I'll put my card front onto a card base. And all of my cards in this video are American Standard A2 size. So 4¼ inches by 5½ inches. For the image, I'm using the poinsettia die set that's included in the kit. Decided to have a white flower. I did cut this out from some white shimmer cardstock, so it has this really lovely shimmery look. So I cut out 3 of the petal pieces, glued them together. For the center part of the flower, I used some white glitter cardstock, and then those tiny little dots, I used some silver mirror cardstock. And these are really tiny. I'm using an embellishment wand to help pick those up. Put a drop of liquid adhesive, then I just press them in place. I have 2 of the holly leaves and also 3 of the pine branches. Use that same dark green cardstock for the holly leaves, and then for the branches I use some green satin mirror cardstock. So I'll attach the holly leaves down first, and then I'll tuck those branches in. Not putting liquid adhesive all over the branches, so they will be able to pop up just a little bit. So put one of the branches above the flower and two below the flower. Once all of those branches are in place, I'll put some liquid adhesive on the back of the flower and adhere it onto the card. I think having the white flower really blends in nicely with the pattern paper. Also trying to curl up some of those petals to add a little extra dimension. To finish off the card, I'll add a few of the Crystal Mix gem stickers. These are by Spellbinders. Just putting 3 of them around the flower. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this sketch. For card design number 2, the card sketch is from the Paper Players. It's number 193. I have this fun vintage ornament pattern paper for the background, adding some, it's like a very light tan polka dot paper. I'll be layering all of these pieces on some black cardstock. And for the background paper, I'll layer it first on some dark green cardstock and then again on some black cardstock. If you are interested in any of the card sketches I use in this video, I do share all of that information on my coordinating blog post. That link is provided in the description box below, or you can simply head over to KristieMarcotte.com. I'll put my card front onto a card base, and I am following this sketch fairly closely. For that smaller rectangle piece, I'm using some of the gold and white striped paper, and that gold has beautiful gold foil finish. Layered it on some black cardstock. Before adhering it to the card, I did add a scrap piece of cardstock on the right side just to keep everything nice and level. I have a stitch circle die cut from light green cardstock, and I also had that scrap piece of cardstock underneath, again keeping everything nice and level. I'll be adding some of the puffy sentiment stickers, and these do have adhesive on the back, but I like to add some liquid adhesive as well, just to make sure they won't fall off later. We'll add 3 of the stickers. So I have Happy Holidays in the middle. I'm putting Peace above it, and then I'll also add To You and Yours. I love this sheet of sentiment stickers, and I use them quite a bit on my cards. Next to the word peace, I'll add one of the enamel dots. They all have little images in the center in gold. And then I'll also add a few of the gem stickers in the upper right hand corner. So there's my finished card, and again I did make 2 using this sketch. I just used different sentiments and stickers since there's only one of each in the kit. For card design number 3, I have one of the card bases that's included in the kit. It's white cardstock and it has a linen texture. I trimmed it down to 4 inches by 5¼ inches. Now I'll use some metallic paint. It has a little bit of a pearlescent finish on it, and just splatter some paint in the background for some extra detail. So there it is all finished, and I'll set that aside to let it dry. I am using a card sketch for inspiration. This is MFT number 561. For that larger rectangle, I have some pink and white striped paper, layered it on a blush colored pink cardstock. And I can put my background piece on some dark green cardstock. Adhere my card front onto a card base. The kits do include 10 A2 size card bases and envelopes. I do prefer to have a heavier weight cardstock. I love 120-pound cardstock, and I do have a link in the description box where you can purchase it. But I love to hang on to those card bases since they have that linen texture. They're perfect for backgrounds on the card, or you could use them for your sentiments or images. I'll be attaching this beautiful poinsettia stitch circle die cut. Before adhering it in place, I did add that little sliver of scrap cardstock to the right side of the circle, then glued it down with some liquid adhesive. I've already stamped out the sentiment, peace and joy. Cut a fishtail on the right side. Then I'll be adding a few of the die cut pieces. So I have this pink poinsettia that has some gold foil in the center. Then I also have 2 of the branches. I put some of the double-sided tape on the back side of the flower so I could attach the branch. I'll do the same for that second branch. trying to get the placement correct so I'm not covering up all of the sentiment. Then I'll add some of the foam squares that are included in the kit. And I do trim down the extra part since that works as foam dimension as well. Remove the release paper, and then first I'll attach the sentiment. On the very right side, I am adding a thin foam square just to pop it up. And on the rest, I just have some liquid adhesive. So I'll adhere that in place and then position the poinsettia and the branches off to the left. To finish off the card, I'll add some more of the gem stickers. Put 2 of them underneath the sentiment and 1 in the upper right-hand corner. And I didn't mention earlier, the gem stickers are not included in the kit. And there is my finished card. I did make 2 using this design. I love the pink and the soft and dark greens together. It's so pretty. For card design number 4, I'm using a card sketch from Sweet Sunday. This is number 224. For the background paper, I have this light gray and it has white print with music all over the background. And I also have this lovely paper with white doves. There's holly berries and branches, layering everything on some black cardstock. I was trying to make sure I didn't have that sheet music upside down. You're only going to see the very top portion and around the edge, but it's enough that I didn't want it to be upside down. I'll put my card front onto a card base, leaving that 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. For that small rectangle, I used some of the white card base with the linen texture on it, layered it with some black cardstock. I'm adding a stitch scallop border on the very top portion of that dove pattern paper. For the 3 small banners in the center of the card, I'm using some black cardstock, some light gray cardstock, and some dark green cardstock. Just cutting a fishtail at the bottom of each of those. Then I'll flip over that white rectangle, add a strip of the double-sided tape, and this is adhesive that's included in the kit. I love that Spellbinders includes foam dimension and also double-sided tape in all of their kits. The light gray banner will be the longest and it'll also go in the center, so I need to place the black and the green on top. So I found the easiest way is to just lay those banners onto the back side. And I can always move them to adjust, make sure the placement is correct and they're nice and straight. Put some ATG tape on the back and also a little bit of liquid adhesive on the banners. I'm also adding some scrap cardstock on the back side where this piece goes above and below that scallop border. Then I'll adhere it to the card. For the sentiment, I'm using one of the die cut pieces. It has this beautiful wreath and the sentiment is "Oh Holy Night." I will pop this up using some of the foam squares that are included in the kit. I'm adding a thin strip of the gold mirror cardstock. This is cardstock that's included in the kit. I put some of the double-sided tape on the back to adhere it to the card. On the sketch, it indicates to add a little button or some kind of embellishment on the left side of that thin strip. I'll be using one of the epoxy stickers. It has a little Christmas tree or a pine tree in the center. And I did put some liquid adhesive on the back just to make sure it doesn't fall off later. So there's my finished card, and I did make 2 using this sketch. For card design number 5, the card sketch is from the Paper Players. This is number 279. This is one of my favorite cards, but do let me know which card is your favorite. The background paper has many of the characters from the Nutcracker. It's really cute. I'm adding a strip of this light brown polka dot paper. Now on the sketch it indicates putting it on the left side, but I'll be putting it on the right side. And you'll see why here in just a little bit. On the edge of that polka dot paper, I'm adding some Love from Lizi gold peel-offs. That'll add some really pretty shine and a little bit of contrast between the 2 pattern papers. Just wrap those ends around the back. Layer this panel on some black cardstock and then again on some light brown cardstock. I'll put my card front onto a card base. And for that larger banner, I used some light pink cardstock and just cut a fishtail on the left side. Once my card front is attached to the card base, I'll glue down this pink banner. And when I attached it, I made sure that on the very right side, you could still see that gold peel off. Using one of the included card bases, I cut out a stitch circle die cut. I'll just adhere that onto the pink banner. Then for the die cut image, I'm using the adorable little mouse that has the star wand. Now because she's facing to the left, I wanted to move all of the elements on the sketch more on the right side. That way she's not looking off the very edge of the card. I think it just balances out everything better. For the sentiment, I'll be adding one of the puffy stickers. This is Holiday Magic. I did put a small scrap piece of cardstock on the very left side of that sentiment before attaching it to the card. Then for a final finishing touch, I'll add a couple of the gold star die cut pieces. And I did pop those up using some thin foam squares. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. For card design number 6, the card sketch is from the Paper Players. This is number 138. I have some light gray paper with white stars for the background. I'm adding a strip of green and white paper on the right side of the card. And then for that larger rectangle, there's little gold stars and also little pine trees all over it. Layering everything using some dark green cardstock. Now instead of the scallop border that's indicated on the sketch, I decided to use the die that's included in the kit. It has this fun lacy design that you could create a little frame. Now the piece is not long enough to go all the way across the card, but that's okay, I'll cover up part of it. So I cut out 2 different pieces, and on the very end, I'll trim off some of that where it overlaps, so you can see how they don't line up perfectly. So I'm using my tweezers, well, I try to use my tweezers to pull up part of it, snipped off the very edge. I'll put some liquid adhesive on the back and glue down the rest of this little piece. Now I will be covering up the little area where the 2 die cuts meet, so you won't be able to tell that it isn't all one piece. So for the little extra that's hanging off the end, I'll just snip that off using my scissors. I think this makes a really fun border. So put ATG tape on the back, layer this piece on some dark green cardstock. Then I'll put my card front onto a card base. And for this card, I will leave that 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. Next, I can attach this tree pattern paper using some ATG tape. I have a stitch circle die cut. I cut this out from some white shimmer cardstock. Before adhering it to the card, I am adding that scrap cardstock just on the very right-hand side. And I'll adhere it in place, making sure to cover up the seam of those 2 border die cuts. For the sentiment, I've already stamped this out, Peace and Joy, cut a fishtail on the right side. I'll be adhering it in the lower left-hand corner, first adding that scrap cardstock on the very left-hand side. Wasn't sure if I needed more than 1 piece, but 1 was enough. For the image on the card, I'm using one of the cardstock stickers, and these do have some dimensional adhesive on the back. I decided to add a little extra, that way the top and bottom didn't dip down. I'll just adhere that on top of the circle die cut. And just for a little extra interest, I'm adding a banner in the upper left-hand corner. Glue that down using some liquid adhesive. I'll also add a few gold gem stickers, and these are by Spellbinders. They're not included in the kit though. Just put 3 of them in the lower left-hand corner around the sentiment. So there is my finished card. I did make 2. On that second card, I used a scallop border die instead of the little die that's included in the kit. For card design number 7, the card sketch is from Paper Play Sketches. This is number 21. The background paper has all these little branches tied up in bows. I'm layering that on some dark green cardstock. I added a strip of the same green cardstock on the left side of the card. Put my card front onto a card base. For those 3 small rectangles, I'm using some light pink cardstock. It's kind of a blush color. I lay them all out on my card first, then I'll put liquid adhesive on the back to adhere them down. So I'm trying to get them straight and evenly placed. So one final piece. I'll be adding one of the die cut images, little hot air balloon with 2 little mice. This is so cute. And I am popping this up using some thin foam squares. I'll adhere the image on the left on top of those little rectangles. For the sentiment, I've already stamped these out. May your holidays be filled with light and love. I used some black ink for the top portion of the sentiment and some green ink for the bottom. Cutting a fishtail on the light and love portion of the sentiment, and I'll glue both of those down using some liquid adhesive. For the top portion of the sentiment, it does go off the edge, so I'm adding some of those small scrap pieces of cardstock on the very outside edges. And I do need to add 2 pieces for each of the sides just to make sure it doesn't dip down. And these are teeny tiny pieces, so I'm using my reverse tweezers to pick those up. Once I have all of that in place, I'll put some liquid adhesive on the back and adhere it above the light and love sentiment portion. For a finishing touch, I'm adding 3 small stitched star die cuts. I cut these out from the gold mirror cardstock that's included in the kit. I'll put 2 of them in the upper right hand corner and 1 to the left of the hot air balloon. And there is my finished card. Again, I did make 2 using this design. It's one thing I love about Spellbinders kits. They have 2 of each of all of the die cut pieces. For card design number 8, I have this mauve colored polka dot paper for the background, layering it on some, this is like a burgundy cardstock. I have a light pink or light mauve colored stitched oval die cut. I'll be adding that to the center of the card. Put my card front onto a card base, leaving that 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. For the images on the card, I'll be adding 3 of the stockings. And I also cut out several of the pine branches. This is the die that's included in the kit. Use that same burgundy cardstock color. I'll be creating some garland along the top of the card. So this is where the stockings will hang. So just one at a time, I'm overlapping one branch after another until I've filled up that entire top portion of the card. I'm not worried about putting adhesive on the entire back side of the pine, basically just putting it down that center portion of the branch. So once those are all in place, I can attach the 3 stockings. I do have some foam squares on the back side to pop those up. I'll put the brownish colored stocking in the center and the 2 pink stockings on the outside. I find it interesting the stocking on the left has a burning candle. I'm not sure you would really put a burning candle in your stocking, but maybe. I know they used to light candles on the tree before there were electric lights, but I still can't imagine having a burning candle in a stocking. For this sentiment, I'm adding Not a Creature Was Stirring. This is one of the puffy stickers. I did put that scrap piece of cardstock on the right side before adhering it in place. And for a little extra decoration on the garland, I'll add some of the epoxy stickers. So there's several different sizes of these little circles. I put the largest one in the center. It has a bell. For the next 2, I'm using the smallest size. There's a present and also a snowflake. And the final 2, this is a medium size. There's a gold star and then another little present. And they all have that gold foil image on the inside. These are sticky, but again, I like to add that little bit of liquid adhesive just to make sure they'll stay in place. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. I just have a different sentiment for the second card. For card design number 9, I have some plaid paper for the background, and I love how some of the stripes of the plaid are gold foil, so it's really pretty. I'm attaching this wide strip of white shimmer cardstock, and I also put a little hillside using a stitched hillside die. So I'm creating a little scene for the background. I did need to trim down just part of the edge before I could layer it on this dark green cardstock. I'll put my card front onto a card base, and for this card, that background layer is an additional 1/4 of an inch. I've already stamped the sentiment Peace and Joy. I have several of the die cut images. So 3 of the trees, they have little gold ornaments. I'm tucking just the bottom portion of that brown tree on the left underneath that stitched hillside. And I forgot to do that before I attached the hillside. The pink tree will go all the way on the right side. I am adding some scrap cardstock on the upper portion since there is that extra layer from the hillside. I'll glue that down directly using some liquid adhesive. And then the large green tree, I'll be popping that up using some thin foam squares. I'm also adding this sweet little deer with the bow around its neck. So it's just taking a nap next to the pink tree. Then to finish off the card, I'll add a few of the die cut stars. And I did put some thin foam squares on the back side. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. Now moving on to my final card design. This is card design number 9. I have some dark gray, almost a charcoal colored pattern paper with white stars for the background, and then several of the beautiful poinsettia die cut pieces. 2 in pink and 1 in kind of a light grayish pink color. I also cut out some of the pine branches. I used some of the gold mirror cardstock for that. And then some more of the little branches with the berries. Just to save on time, I glued down the berries on one of the branches, but I'll do one of them here with you. So I'm just putting a drop of liquid adhesive, then picking up the berries with my embellishment wand and placing them on the branch. So the very end of the branch still shows through on the other side of the berry. Before I place those flowers down, I'll put the branches first. I'll put 2 of the gold pine branches in the upper left-hand corner and 1 of the white branches with the berries in between those. Then I can attach the large poinsettia flower. I used 2 different foam dimensions for the back of the flower. For the large flower, I have just a standard foam dimension. Trying to figure out which direction this flower is supposed to go. Now I'll put one of the branches in the lower left-hand corner. Once that's in place, I can attach the small pink poinsettia flower. And for the last 2 flowers, I use the foam dimension that's included in the kit. So it's a bit thicker than standard foam dimension. Before I place this final flower, I will put those branches down first. So 2 of the gold branches in the lower right-hand corner and 1 of the white branches with the berries. Then I'll remove the release paper on the back side of the foam dimension and adhere my final flower. I love the contrast from that dark gray against the pretty pink flowers. For final finishing touch, I'll add a sentiment using one of the puffy stickers. Trying to figure out where I wanted to place it. This is Holiday Hugs. Put that little bit of liquid adhesive on the back and adhere it to the right side of the large poinsettia. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. For the second card, I have warm wishes for the sentiment. This is definitely one of my other favorite cards. Now here's a quick recap of the 20 cards I made using Spellbinders November 2021 card kit. This is Joyful Christmas. As I mentioned earlier in the video, due to some product delays, this is not part of the monthly subscription. You can purchase this kit individually. I do have a link provided in the description box if you are interested in purchasing this kit or any of the other products I used in this video. I always enjoy using Spellbinders kits. They really do pack them full with a ton of product. I'm amazed how many die cut and papers I still have left over. And if you are interested in subscribing, I will add a link for that in the description box as well. In addition to the card kit, they also have several dies of the month. Those look really fun. They have a stamp of the month, and if you use a glimmer machine, they also have a kit for that. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.